Welcome to the Nailsin Ratings. Well, here's a little article concerning the DCEU, and it pretty much confirms something that I've always suspected about the whole ordeal. No, not about Robin being dead and being Dick Grayson. So, yeah, Zack Snyder revealed on his Vero account that it wasn't Jason Todd who had died. It was Dick Grayson that the Joker killed. Of course, in the 80s in the comic books, Dick Grayson had moved on to the character at being the character Nightwing, and Batman found a successor in a kid named Jason Todd. He was a bit of a troubled kid, and in an adventure involving the Joker, he ended up being murdered by the Joker. Oh, don't worry, they later on, someone dropped him into Lazarus Pit, and he came back from the dead. But anyway, in this version, Zack had intended for Dick Grayson to be dead, and then eventually Carrie Kelly would be the Robin introduced in his movies that he was making. It goes on to talk about how Jenna Malone was an actress that he was looking at and playing the character, apparently, but it just never got around to it. And there's the article seems to suggest that, he didn't want to have characters like Jimmy Olsen in there because Jimmy Olsen was going to be in the Supergirl TV show. And then, like, the show Arrow killed off their Suicide Squad characters because, well, the Suicide Squad movie was coming and vice versa and all that. And that might have had something to do with influencing about why certain characters were not there or eliminated and all that sort of thing. So, yes, if you didn't see the Batman vs. Superman Ultimate Cut, which is far superior to the theatrical cut, yes, Jimmy Olsen is dead. He dies pretty early on in the movie. And so there is that, yeah. But long ago, when this all got started rolling, I suspected, and I thought it was pretty much confirmed, that when Warner Brothers went to Nolan while he was wrapping up his Dark Knight trilogy and say, hey, could you produce a Superman trilogy? And so he agreed to do it and search for a director to take it over and he would produce it. And that's exactly what happened. And he hired Zack Snyder to do Man of Steel. And that was just going to be part one of a Superman trilogy. And I don't know, lately it's been said, oh no, it was a tent pole for a DC universe like Marvel. And that came later, and Warner Brothers decided they wanted that to happen. And the only indication of a wider world of DC in that movie is, well, you see the little Easter egg of Wayne Industries on the satellite where Superman and Zod are fighting and all that. And that's the sort of thing that could be tacked on later. So there's no meeting with Amanda Waller in an end credit scene or something like that, you know, to be like Marvel and Iron Man. So I think this was done later, and it's part of the problem for Batman versus Superman. Even though I enjoyed it, I enjoyed the Ultimate Cut. The theatrical one is a mess, and it just doesn't work. The Ultimate Cut at least works within its own story, but there's still some pretty big flaws in there. But it's impossible for it to achieve what it's supposed to do, which Warner Brothers wanted a movie that does in one movie what Marvel did in, 4 or 5 years at that point. It was not going to happen. And so there's all these things thrown around and teases that other movies would have to flesh out. And if it didn't work out or didn't become the hit that it was supposed to be, then, well, you're not going to see that. So the Batman vs. Superman made its money, but the response to it was pretty bad, and you could see Warner Brothers panicking and what happened to Justice League. And from the get-go, you just had way too many cooks in the kitchen on this, and, well, you see the results. So here's quotes from 2011. It doesn't fit into Justice League, Zack Snyder told Hey You Guys back in 2011. Like what Chris Nolan is doing and what I'm doing with Superman. Now, yeah, back then, that was the George Miller's Justice League that they were working on. And then the writer's strike pretty much demolished that one. So that was going on at the time. So here he is doing this Superman film. So you had the Nolan Batman, and then Zack Snyder working on Superman, and then another movie, Justice League, with a bunch of superheroes all in one. And I suppose that would have gone on into a shared universe, but just Justice League movies, I guess. And so that's what he's referring to. What they'll do with Justice League will be its own thing with its own Batman and their own Superman. We'll be over here with our movie. They'll kind of get to do it twice, which is kind of cool. Okay. So, yeah, fans are now speculating that WB Brass forced Snyder's hand to connect his Man of Steel movie. Yes. They want it all into one shared universe, but they slapped it all together all at once, rushed it out, especially Suicide Squad, which is clearly a slap job of a movie rushed out. And, like it says here in the article, ironically now WB is going with standalone movie. Just recently announced the Joaquin Phoenix Joker origins film, which I'm not that excited about. So if they wanted a DCEU, that should have been at the outset. You set that up at the beginning. You start with that. You don't take a movie that was done and produced, filmed and completed and put out with originally being something else, and then suddenly say it's entirely a different animal. That's where you begin to see the cracks and the problems here. And this constant, oh, we don't want to copy Marvel. Yeah, we do. We don't want to copy them at all. Yeah, you gotta do. It's just the same thing over and over. Just do it already. They're different characters. They're different stories. It doesn't, the actual structure of, hey, they all live in the same universe. Done. There. That's it. The standalone movies on their own, which is what they seem to be doing now with Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Shazam, where they do live in the same universe, but they don't necessarily have to overlap one another. You don't have to see them all and that sort of thing. And at some point, if these movies work and there's a fan base for it and there's a desire for them and they're hyped for them, then eventually you can get back to a movie that brings them all together, which I assume would be another Justice League movie, only better. I enjoyed the Justice League movie for what it was. It has problems. It didn't really deserve the hatred it got. But again, there's another one where we hear the descriptions of what Zack Snyder intended. Yeah, that was a much better film. So, didn't really have the flaw of Steppenwolf's motivation, which in the theatrical release is just awful. That whole thing about fear brought him back. The death of Superman scared everybody so bad that he realized the fear was the perfect time for him to invade the earth and get those mother boxes, which he left behind thousands of years ago. So in all that time, World War II, the Black Plague, none of that scared the earth enough for him to sense the fear. So no, it was Superman dying. Yeah. Oh boy, that's probably the absolute worst. Even worse than the stupid CGI and CGI mustache and all that. Oh, but you hate to see these missed opportunities. But here you see the problems of too many cooks in the kitchen, forcing a director's hand, and he takes all the blame for it. Some of his ideas, like Dick Grayson being killed, I'm not crazy about that. But ultimately, the failure of the shared DC universe, it's not really him. It's Warner Brothers. And there you have it. All right. Thanks for watching and listening. Please check out the link description below for the links to my many stores that have plenty of goodies for you. And hey, while you're here, why not like and subscribe and share with your friends? Hey, you'll be the talk of the town. Well, Anyway, we'll do it again next time. Bye-bye.